We just put up like your volume all the way so you can hear.
Turn mine up all the way. Let me see. Hello? Okay, yeah, we're live. All right. Okay, I call this meeting to order at 7:09 p.m. Are there any additions or subtractions that need to be made to the agenda? Phoebe? Daniela?
Can we strike TGM, please? Thank you.
Josh?
Can we please strike capital contingency and contingency programming, please? Thanks.
Juan?
Strike SFS.
Eliana?
Could we add a change to the financial bylaws or financial policies?
Okay.
Thanks.
All right, can we get a motion to approve?
I move to approve the agenda.
I second.
Okay, Sarah motions, 1 second. All in favor, please raise your hand. 9, 10. All right, and by a vote of 10 to 0, the motion passes and the agenda for this week is approved. Can we now talk about the approval of the minutes? I hope everyone was able to review the minutes from last week's meeting. Okay. Are there any changes or any clarifications that need to be made? All right, if not, can we get a motion?
I move to approve the minutes from May 2nd.
I second.
Sarah motions, 1 second. All in favor, please raise your hand. All right, and by a vote of 10 to 0, the motion passes. All right, and now we'll open the floor for public comment. Public comment is a time for individuals to come to the association to address any questions, concerns, or comments that they may have. We'll start with in person. Clara, I think you might have to come over here since the big speaker. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah.
Hello. Hi, it's me, Claire from Calpurg. I'll be super fast. Quick update, our statewide board meeting was this weekend, which was very exciting. We did a lot of stuff. It was extremely long. But the most exciting thing was we decided our statewide lead campaign for the fall. And we're going to be working on 100% clean energy at the UCs. So at UCLA, we're going to be trying to advocate for Chancellor Block to commit our campus to 100% clean energy. For some context, we worked with UCOP, the president's office, to commit the UC system to 100% clean electricity. And so that's going to be like, they're going to get there pretty soon. It's 2025. So now we want to push further and do clean energy sector wide. And we're very excited about it. It'll be really personal for students on campus. So yeah. And then the other thing is I just wanted to shout out a little event that our plastics campaign is doing next week. It's called Pack Up Plastics. It's next Thursday. And it's to draw attention to the fact that a lot of plastic that says it's recyclable ends up in the landfill anyway. And it's going to be super cool. And it's in Bruin Plaza on Thursday at 3:30. Woohoo! Thank you guys.
Thank you. All right. Now, is there anyone in the attendees that would like to give public comment? Please raise your hand and keep your hand raised. Going once, going twice. Okay. Is there anyone else in person? All right, well, we'll be closing public comment at 7:13 p.m. Now we'll get into funding. We'll start with SWC programming fund allocations. Anna? Is Anna not here?
Rihanna isn't here.
She doesn't have a proxy either. Okay, well, we'll come back to that. Bruin Advocacy Grant allocations, Devon.
Hi, folks. Okay, so for this last and final Bruin Advocacy Grant allocation, we allocated $3,000 to non-USAC entities. And I'm putting it in chat.
Does anyone have any questions, concerns, or comments regarding this? All right, if not, it is a consent item and it is approved. Next up, we'll have ASRF allocations. Daniela.
Yes. So this week ASRF allocated $2,567.70 to two non-USAC entities. And then I think that TGMF hasn't been struck, but we don't have any allocations this week for TGMF. Thank you.
Does anyone have any questions in regards to ASRF allocations for this week? If not, it is a consent item and it is approved. And next up, we have ARC allocations.
Hi, everyone. We allocated this week $10,000 to 4 non-USAC entities. And we just got the account number for community fund from SGA, which is quite, upsetting to the degree of like it's week 6 and we're barely getting that access to that. But also to raise a concern with that, it's only 16,250 in community. And we voted as a council to allocate 20,000. So I just wanted to bring that up to maybe admin staff like Jessica, if you know why this is, because I think that we might be depleted from arts restoring community, just in terms of how much we've allocated already. So we would like to know where the rest of that money went to community, just so that students have access to this and for full transparency. So thank you.
Wait. Hold on. Yeah. Oh, you're gonna unmute? Okay.
Okay. Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Computer. Hello, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Oh, I saw a thumb. I saw Sarah give thumbs up. Okay. So with community, so you should see the full amount allocated, but there will be less funds available because there were some expenses that hit that fund already, which were outstanding payments from community fund last fiscal year that we were trying to resolve for some time. And we were finally able to resolve it and get those students paid because they were owed money from last year, and whoever was managing the fund that year didn't process any of their requisition forms. So that's why you'll see that there's an expense already in that fund. So we can talk offline and maybe meet if you have other ideas of where you could pull funds from to cover that cost. We can certainly see if we can, recharge it in a different way that fits better for your budget. But that's why there's that, there's an expense in there. If you look at the budget report, you should see that amount, that missing amount under expense, because essentially that went to pay I feel like it was maybe like 7 or 8 students who were owed funding that they received from last year's community fund. So hopefully that clarifies, but if there's any further questions, we can chat more about it offline if you want to meet.
Alicia?
Thank you so much for responding, Jessica. I would love to meet about that. But I would like to say, like, please communicate if any money is being, expensed or taken off in the future so that I'm aware that it's happening. Thank you so much.
All right. And wait, I see that I thought IVP partnership fund allocation was struck. Is it not struck? Okay. Okay, Milan. Okay, yep, Milan, whenever you want to give the updates, you can. Sure, yeah, we can do that. You want to come back to it? All right, okay, we'll go right into, okay, no problem. We'll go right into special presentations. So we have the transportation program update in FY 2023-2024 fee consultation. Let me see, have we promoted the individual that's here to give this special presentation?
Hi, good evening. My name is Ray Mangusta. I'm the Director of Parking Community Services, and I'm hoping we could also promote Tirza Nuno. She's also with Community Parking Services. She could share the PowerPoint that goes along with the presentation.
Okay, yeah, awesome. Let me see.
See her now.
All right.
If someone could enable screen share for me, that would be fantastic.
All right, thank you, everybody. Again, good evening, everyone. My name is Raymond Guzzo. I'm the Director of Commuter and Parking Services. I'm here today to share an overview of what commuter, parking, and the rest of transportation's organizational priorities are in the coming fiscal year. And I'm also going to give a financial overview of UCLA transportation and the funding that's required to sustain those organizational priorities and the proposed fee increases this coming fiscal year. So next slide, please. So first, I'm going to share some context. UCLA has about a 71,000 daily campus population, and this consists of faculty, staff, students, visitors, as well as patients and their families to the health system. And in addition to all of that, there are also conference and event attendees, distinguished guests, and athletic event attendees. Next slide, please. And a little bit of further context here. It's a neat little graph showing the results of our efforts over the last few decades. The yellow line is the average number of vehicle trips on campus in 1996, while the blue portion is the same data, but from 2022. So I'd like to note that the trend was the same pre-COVID, meaning vehicle trips were also significantly lower in 2019 when compared to 1996. And again, this just shows the lowering of vehicles on the roadways and just traffic in general within the Westwood area and what UCLA contributes to traffic issues surrounding the LA region. Next slide, please. And next, I'd like to share some pie charts of the commuter mode splits between employees and students as of this time last year. As you can see, telecommuting is huge for employees. About 1/3 of staff members at UCLA on any given day are working remotely. Meanwhile, the drive alone rate is about 41%, which is much better than the LA County rate. And it's nearly back to the LA County rate is nearly back to its pre-pandemic level at about 74%. And of course, we also have about 1.3% bicyclists, 6.8% walking, and 5.6% taking the bus. We have about 5.3% carpools or van pool as well. And the pie chart on the right is for commuter students, meaning they don't live in the dorms or directly on campus. And from that population, we see about 25.2% driving alone, 22% taking public transit, and just over 34% walking. And the remainder of that is bicycling, ride hailing, carpooling, or micromobility like Bird or Lyft scooters. Next slide, please. So as you can deduce from the previous pie charts, it's not all just about parking. Therefore, UCLA Transportation emphasizes access rather than just parking. And how do we do this? Well, we facilitate access in several ways. A prime example is through our campus traffic systems unit, which is responsible for roadway infrastructure, traffic signal, signage enhancement, and traffic safety to support shared use of all commuter and our campus roadways. We also do it through general parking management, part of which includes reduced fee for carpool permits to include non-single occupancy vehicle commuting, as well as discounted daily parking for staff or students who work remote or hybrid, or who study remote or hybrid and don't need the full cost of a monthly parking permit. And as I mentioned earlier, we also advocate for heavier public transit options to and from campus. For example, we practice fare subsidization for staff and students, bicycles and pedestrian infrastructure, as well as Bruin bus transit shuttle. That's all funded by parking revenues. And we encourage the use of alternative transportation, as a result of that. Finally, we have regular, frequent education of incentive programs for transportation options outside of the single occupancy parking. Next slide, please. So while Commuter and Parking Services Unit maintains parking for our campus community, our Mobility Planning and Traffic Unit advocates for campus and its need for local agencies like Metro. This ensures that local and regional agencies plan for transit and other commuting projects with UCLA's needs on the forefront and facilitate sustainable transportation programs for our students, for our staff and faculty, and so forth. Recent examples include advocacy for the Sepulveda Corridor Project, which it's basically a north-south subway or monorail project that would get people from the San Fernando Valley to the west side. Also negotiating a Torrance transit route for the UCLA in the near future, and pushing UCLA's interest for the last several years with respect to the Purple Line expansion project. Next slide, please. Here's a little graphic on how our department is advocating for mobility and access. We do it through infrastructure, we do it through policy, and we do it through programs, all designed for the common goal of reducing impacts on our environment and our traffic in general. Next slide, please. And with that, I'd like to touch a little bit more on mobility planning efforts we've taken recently to further access on campus. A bike lane has recently been installed on the Charles E. Young South area between the Reagan Hospital and the Facilities Management Building. We've also continued our partnership with Metro to continue expanding the Metro Bike Share program with recent additions at Drake Stadium, the University Apartments South, so south of Wilshire there, and at Weyburn Terrace, which is north of Wilshire. We've also recently hosted a successful bike recycling day and hosted bicycling seminars and classes. And we've established and facilitated the Campus Bike Advisory Committee, which the USAC Facilities Commissioner is a committee member. Next slide, please. Next, we'd also like to discuss how our department facilitates access via the Safe Ride program, which is a complimentary ride providing a safe and reliable alternative to walking alone in the evenings, especially for those that have late classes or live immediately off of campus. Safe Ride continues to operate at least Monday through Thursday, 7 p.m. to 12 a.m., along with the Bruin Bus U5 Safe Ride loop. A recent pilot was run with expanded weekend service and longer hours, and we're exploring additional pilots over the fall quarter. We're also going to be expanding outreach efforts next fall in collaboration with other campus entities to continue getting the word out about the service. Next slide, please. And further, we also offer the Bruin Access Service, which is an on-demand service for individuals requiring accessible accommodations. There are over 2,000 students registered with CAE that are approved to use the service. And we also going to pilot door-to-door access for Bruin Access riders during UCLA Safe Ride hours during the fall. And next slide, please. And finally, I'd like to give you an overview of our parking system. We have roughly 22,000 parking spaces between 48 parking facilities, and approximately 8.3% of the stalls are for dedicated patient parking. about 7.7% are for pay on entry visitor stalls, and the remaining 84% are mixed use stalls for use between permit holders, event sales, and pay station sales. That said, about 21% of our spaces are used for daily or transient visitors, while about 79% of our space is used by our permit holders. Roughly 49% of our budget revenues come from our daily visitor population, while about 51% of said revenue comes from our permit holders. We're experiencing steady declines in both groups, though. Ride hailing and increased micromobility is decreasing the need for transient and event parking, while hybrid and remote work for staff and faculty has reduced parking demand among our permit holders. Next slide, please. And now for a little context surrounding how our department manages our budgets. We manage our financials over a 10-year horizon, and as we're completely self-supported and do not receive funding from general campus funds, our priority is to maintain sufficient reserves in order to withstand unexpected pressures like we did with COVID, as well as support major maintenance and repairs for parking structures in order to avoid unnecessarily large fluctuations in permit fees year over year. We also structure our student and staff permit increases in small, annual, and predictable increments to avoid the irregular and large fluctuations in prices. Meanwhile, we continually evaluate our operations and long and short-term programs for cost effectiveness. And finally, we regularly research the comparable parking market and its pricing infrastructures, particularly with medical daily parking rates. Next slide, please. All that said, here's a summary sheet of our expected revenues and the necessary costs to support our operations, our initiatives, and our priorities. Our total revenues among all transportation units are projected to be approximately $56.9 million, while our net revenues after associated costs of operations, transit pass subsidies, micromobility subsidies, campus transit subsidies, mobility planning, and campus ground rent payment to the Chancellor's office are expected to be approximately $13.8 million. From there, and after paying our transportation system support, contributing to our major maintenance and repair fund, as well as paying our annual debt service, we plan to utilize some of our reserve funding that we have left standing in the volume of approximately $7.3 million. Next slide, please. So in order to make all of this work, we're proposing a modest 3.2% fee increase to our yellow and blue permit holder monthly rates and similar increases with other permits across the board. Note, however, that we propose to maintain the daily visitor fee of $15 per entry. And as another note, these prices are already inclusive of the mandatory City of Los Angeles parking occupancy tax that was imposed January of this year. Next slide, please. As I mentioned earlier, we regularly conduct comparative analyses with other agencies and their parking rates. Here's a helpful breakdown of other universities similar to UCLA and their rates. And it's helpful to note that even with the proposed increase, we will remain at or below costs in most categories. Next slide, please. And finally, here's a local market comparison involving Westwood Village and other regional medical facilities. Westwood Village rates remain at about $235 to $400 with a $248 average and an average all-day fee of $26.58. Meanwhile, average regional medical rates are about $16.50 on average for the day, or $33 with in-and-out privilege, and monthly rates are about $170 for staff. Next slide, please. All that said, thank you for your time and sitting through this presentation. I'd be happy to take any questions or comments.
Yeah, Naomi.
Yeah, thank you definitely for the presentation. It was very insightful. I just a comment, but I don't know if it's the best to compare it to Westwood area for like their daily parking. Like I understand why in the context of UCLA, like parking and transportation, why you would do so, but especially for students paying for these parking permits, a lot of us aren't from Westwood area to pay those rates, if you know what I'm saying. Like we know like we're right next to Beverly Hills. We know we're right next to Century City Mall, like that really high influence, upper middle class like region. Like, I don't know if that's the best comparison, but thank you for the information you provided today.
Yeah, of course. And just a little background on that. We wanted to provide a comparison because we want to show that we're essentially subsidizing parking rates for UCLA students and staff members. Because if we were to charge market rates, pretty substantially higher than the rest, right? So we want to show that, hey, we're still using parking net revenues to subsidize those that are affiliated with UCLA. But yes, thank you for your comments. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Can they hear me? Yes, they can. All right. Yeah, I just had a question about, so yeah, just kind of going back to what Naomi was talking about in regards to comparing it to other schools. UCLA is on a quarter system. And I see that you compared it to like USC, and I think you compared it to Berkeley as well, which are both semester systems. So I don't really know if that's like also another reason why it's like appropriate to compare in regards to saying that UCLA has an advantage of some sort. And I just wanted to say that like I completely just disagree with anything in regards to, talking about increasing parking passes, especially with the fee that just came down from LA. Like we should be trying to like figure out a way to lower them or get them back to the original price that they used to be, instead of talking about increasing them. That's just kind of like, it just kind of doesn't make sense to me.
No, thank you for your comment. So for your first point, the rates were actually prorated to monthly. So we did break it down rather than quarterly or semester for each university. We prorated everything. So those are actually monthly rates to make it, to make it a better comparison across the board. So yeah, we're not trying to obfuscate that. And then as far as the parking occupancy tax, we did not raise rates back in January. So we've been taking a hit over the last 6 months due to the parking occupancy tax, if that makes sense, because it's $15 on entry as of last July. After the tax was imposed, we transportation have been essentially eating that cost over those few months. And so this increase essentially does get it back to where it was pre-tax, if that makes sense, or where it would be pre-tax. So yeah, with the increase, I understand that, the 3.2% is an increase out of pocket for the individuals that are paying for parking permits. But again, that does help subsidize programs for folks who aren't parking, like public transit and with micromobility education and whatnot. So.
Okay, I might have a follow-up, but I'm gonna let Naomi, you got your hand raised again?
You can go ahead.
Yeah, so I'm just trying to understand what you're saying, because you said that basically like the increase is somehow bringing it back to the original price before the LA like mandatory fee.
Yeah. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, starting January 1, the parking occupancy tax from City of LA was imposed onto all parking permits, right? And so everybody that was paying for a parking permit did experience a 10% increase, but we didn't raise the 15% daily fee for anyone else, right? We're still not going to be raising the $15 daily fee this coming fiscal year, but all permit holders are going to experience a 3.2% increase to help subsidize those programs. That makes sense.
Okay, thank you. Naomi?
Yeah. Okay. So kind of follow up, because as someone that pays for the parking permit quarter by quarter, it's definitely like a difficult conversation. But I know, so the blue and yellow permits are going to be raised as well. Was there any consideration of maybe just raising those permits? Because I know those aren't primarily occupied by students.
Most student permits are yellow permits, just to be clear.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
Yeah, so this is across the board. This is for any permit holder at UCLA, irrespective of, student, staff, faculty.
Got it. Okay. Thank you.
Of course.
And then my last question. So is this something that like or did you come here to like, get our support for this, or is this something that's still in the works, or?
Well, yeah, this is just part of the annual consultation process, right? And we're going to be proposing essentially the fee increase over the next couple of weeks. There's going to be an official letter that goes out across the board to all UCLA permit holders, anyone who's purchased a permit in the past several months, essentially. And then there's going to be a public comment period. And so this is just kind of a sneak peek for USAC and anyone who's participating here to see what's going to be proposed, as well as what's being funded and supported by parking net revenues. Basically to say, hey, we understand paying for parking isn't popular, but all of those fees are going to programs to help subsidize folks who aren't parking, right? And so that's kind of the more thorough explanation of everything that you're going to be seeing in the next couple of weeks. But there will be a public comment period where you can absolutely submit any sort of comment or question, and they'd be answered essentially.
Phoebe,
Do I need to like go over there when I speak, or should I like update my mind?
I think they can hear. Can y'all hear Phoebe?
It was very far away.
You might have.
Hey, Ray, thanks for coming in again. I
course.
remember that at the Transportation Services Advisory Board meeting that we talked a little bit about this presentation previously and about ways that we could increase affordability to students.
Yes.
I know that I'm personally like a fan of like what we're doing in terms of like using like parking revenue and the grant money that we have at the university for like electrification of the fleets, like through the buses, and also like expanding Druid access. I think it's great that we're trying to increase the number of mode choices that students have, and also like that program that subsidizes, I believe, transit for all UCLA employees. I think, I don't know if I recall correctly. That's great.
There's a pilot program for tier 1 employees, and then that's with the hope that that expands to all employees. But yes.
Right. That makes sense. I do think that like, even like with like the parking fee, like raising like marginally across the board, it seems like it's like about like $10, not too much more, but still like for like students that can't afford that. Like, I'm not saying that, sorry, how do I rephrase this? Like it makes a big difference for students that can't afford it. So is there a way that we can incorporate some of those ideas, like having like the raffle for like, students like that meet like certain eligibility criteria to like have like reduced parking, or like having like certain like permitting as like affordable like parking spots? Because I know those were ideas that were brought up. So then like some of the people that can face the brunt of like an increase for the parking fees can help like pay it, and then like we're reinvesting in transit, which has been underinvested, but like still keeping in mind like affordability for people that have to commute by a car.
No, that's a great point. And in fact, we have partnered with the financial aid office and student affairs. They've included some transportation money for commuting students as well. I believe some of that was dispersed during spring quarter. I'm embarrassed because I don't know the exact organizations that did receive the funding, but I do know that at least several parking permits were subsidized with those funds. So yes, that is a program that we're going to be looking at more broadly. Tirza, I know you have your hand up because you know that program a lot more thoroughly than I do. So
Yeah, if I can just add, so it's not a specific program to us in transportation, but each year the financial aid office does do a kind of survey of sorts of surrounding universities, the cost of living, all of those things. So in financial aid packages, which generally students that are of lower income tend to receive financial aid, they do account for commuting costs for commuting students, the same way that students on the dorms or Hill will get, money for to partially subsidize their housing or pay for their housing rather. Same way for commuting students, they do get a portion. I have the data. If anyone's interested, I can pull it and provide it to you, after this meeting. But I know it was within a few $100 per quarter, and it is more than enough to cover a parking permit as well. I don't know exactly the criteria for which students qualify for that, which don't. Granted, that's from the financial aid office, but I do know that's part of students' financial aid package, in case that helps.
Yeah, that definitely sounds helpful. I think a lot of students, like Naomi in the chat, would like to see that data. And also it could provide a little bit more transparency about like what support is already given, so we can determine like what extra support is needed if students still think they need support beyond that. Cool. Thank you.
thank you.
Sarah.
Hi, thank you for coming in. I just had a question on the public comment process, and if you could just expand on what that will look like, and two, how responsive will the office be to student public opinion at all if there's a lot of comments about affordability and questions like that?
Of course. Yeah. So over the next, if you are a permit holder, or if you've purchased a permit in the last, I believe it's 3 or 4 months, you will receive a notice via email sometime in the next 2 weeks about what these rates are, right? At the bottom, there will be instructions on how to public comment. And I'm promising you right now, every comment will receive a response. Yeah, so I'm just telling you that right now. It doesn't matter if you bought one pass in the last 18 months or if you're a full quarter permit holder. So you will receive that, a response of some sort. And sorry, did you have a second follow-up question?
Yeah, I was wondering thank you for that. If there's a large number of students who have concerns about affordability with the price increases, would the office be amenable to make any changes, or is it just to ensure that students are aware and can have their voices heard?
It's more about aware and voices heard, but also if there is enough support for the unaffordability of a parking permit for someone who desperately needs it. As Tears mentioned before, financial aid office does offer parking permit scholarships, if you will. I think that's the incorrect term, and I'm probably getting in trouble for saying that, but they do offer some sort of subsidy for parking permits for students. And secondly, we also encourage anyone who does have that concern to message or reach out to their advisor on the Transportation Service Advisory Board. There is an undergraduate representative on the board at all times, and they can kind of make those they can make those concerns and those voices heard as well, who does have a very heavy influence on these rates. So
Perfect. Thank you so much.
of course.
Alicia?
This is just a really quick question. Will any students have voting power in terms of this decision being made?
No, the parking rate increases unfortunately aren't held to votes by students or staff or faculty. It's really by it's really by the department itself, because it is self-funded without any state support or without any student funding support. So it's to make the economics work.
Thank you.
And so just to kind of piggyback off that question, so was it like, you're the director, correct?
Yes, sir.
So was it like a board decision, or was it your decision? Like who thought it was like, a great decision to increase parking permit prices for students?
Well, essentially it was brought before the Transportation Service Advisory Board as the initial proposal, right? And so kind of the process that we go through is we look at all the costs of everything that we need to run all the transportation services. So Bruin Access, kind of what I mentioned in the presentation, right? So all the Bruin Access, Bruin bus shuttles, subsidies that we give, education incentives, alternate transportation funding, and alternate transportation funding. So all of that is brought together. We then submit it to the Vice Chancellor's office as well as the Chancellor's office, who give it a very thorough overview and make sure that they have, make sure that it makes sense to campus leadership. And then we start this thorough presentation to all the affected groups that may have an interest in this. So, yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess I appreciate you for coming. Thank you for telling me that I guess the chancellor has heard about this. I have a meeting with him pretty soon, so I'll bring this up. I'm not a fan of this at all. I'm just, not going to sugarcoat it. Whether it was a $4 increase, $5 or a $10 increase, not really a fan of it. I hope that, you're prepared to change this or, work with students because, this is going to affect commuter students. This is going to affect, a lot of students who, have vehicles and, have to come to class. And so I hope you're open for change, because I think that this is definitely going to, raise a lot of problems. And I think students are definitely going to come, to that event that you're talking about, but also we're going to start, probably pretty soon. So I really appreciate you for coming, though, and like not hiding this and, coming straight here and not sending a rep and, just kind of speaking to us in this setting. So thank you so much.
No, absolutely. And that's the whole point of this. We want to be collaborative, and, we're trying to be, we understand parking cost increases are never popular. Nobody wants to pay more for it. In fact, I pay for it as well, right? Out of a monthly rate. So we understand it's not popular, but the point of this is to show that, hey, parking revenues do go and fund good things, especially for folks who can't drive or can't afford a car to come to campus. So anyways, that's part of the presentation. And yeah, thank you for hearing it. Whole point of this is be collaborative. So thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you so much. All right, Milan, are you ready for IVP partnership, or you want us to come back to it? Increase the volume. Can they hear?
They can just increasing.
Hey, Milan, can you hear me? Change it back. Can anyone hear me? Sarah, can you hear me?
Someone just needs to
Okay,
speak.
Sarah can hear. I think, I don't know, Milan probably having internet issues. We'll come back to that. Now, I don't know why new business is all the way up here. Is that a mistake?
No,
Oh.
I'm here to present on new business.
Oh, okay, awesome. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a special presentation. Got you. Okay. Yeah, the floor is yours.
Okay, do I need to stand up or anything or?
Let me see if, Sarah, can you hear? What's your name?
Alexa?
Yeah,
Can you-
I can hear.
Floor is yours.
My name is Alexa Krim. I am a member of the SGS staff. My current position title is Student Union Admin, so you guys have definitely gotten a bunch of emails and messages from me. I'm here to present on the updated bylaws. So this is just a presentation about it. You will not be voting on it this week. You will be voting on it next week. And I do hope that you take the time to look through the bylaws specifically. And look and see what I did to change it. I didn't change any of the actual content. There's one bullet point that I removed. That's it. I'm going to be completely transparent. I literally just did it so that it was a lot easier to follow, because in the time that we have edited the bylaws since they originally became a thing, they just got really messed up. I assumed that you guys would look at the USAC website, and when you would try and do article changes, it didn't match with what the website was saying, as well as what the bylaws were saying. So anytime we had to go in and make those changes that you guys voted on, it was a nightmare. So basically I have that bylaws change document. As you can see, I made 31 changes. I just kind of listed those articles don't necessarily match up to my document that I have. It was mostly just changing the location of things and the numbering of things. The biggest change is probably Article IV, because all of the offices were not their own section. They were underneath president, except for the 3 newest positions, which includes ISR and TSR. And so I changed it back to match the website. I know that there were a few questions. The one highlighted in blue, I changed that. I realized that that was a mistake. I misread the bylaws. The facilities commissioner shall serve as chair below the Green Initiative Fund. That needs to be underneath instead of on the other side of, so that one I fixed.
You want to share screen?
Yeah, sure. Wait, I'm on the Zoom.
Are you on the Zoom?
Yeah, but I can't share my screen.
I was gonna say, can we pull up the what Alexa is talking to, so we can?
Actually, wait, can you just send me the Zoom link so that I can join, because I have the tabs open already.
I can also share my screen if that would be helpful since I have it pulled up. Just let me know whatever is easiest for you, Alexa.
Yeah, I think the easiest way to do this is to look at the original copy. So when you guys are going through it independently, looking at the original copy of the bylaws, looking at my copy of the bylaws, and then looking at the changes. The changes are not super helpful. I will be honest with you. There was a lot of stuff that I just didn't write down necessarily. Here. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So here is my copy of the bylaws. The biggest change that I did make was that everything is in its own little table. So instead of it all being like one thing, it's a table. And so that should just make editing things in the future a lot easier. Oh, are you guys still with me?
Yeah, I think they can see it. I can see it.
Okay, cool. I was just, because I'm on the same Zoom account as Fernando, so that probably didn't help. Looking at the bylaw changes, the one that I was talking about that I removed, I updated that in my copy of that's highlighted in blue. Other than that, these are all of the changes that I made, and the biggest ones are on Article IB, because as you can see, this is just labeled as number 9 instead of being its own section, which is what matches the website. I know there are a few questions and I'm happy to field them right now. I do implore you to take the time to look at the bylaws, the changes that I made. There was no actual content changes except for this. It was like way down at the bottom. I think it was also like there was a recommendation and it wasn't necessarily something that had to be changed. This is my favorite agenda items. That was so silly, the fact that that was actually in the bylaws. Yeah, there was like one thing that I was like, oh, here we go. No, sorry, I can't find it. I have a lot of changes in here. But it was just like a sentence that was repetitive, and so I recommended it be removed. Okay, happy to field any questions now.
Does anyone have any questions for Alexa?
I know the two that are highlighted above, I'm happy to explain why they were changed the way that they were. And yes, Alicia, go ahead.
Okay, so you're not striking anything and you're not changing like the like these two that are, I mean, the one that's highlighted for me, that doesn't change any of the content.
So the reason why I had this little line through the B is because I changed it to A. It is no longer B, it was A. So it was really difficult because all of my changes were structural and not content-based.
Okay.
And so the way that the bylaw changes form works is you must strike through things that need to be removed and you have to bold things that need to be added. And because mine was all like actual structure, to demonstrate that was a little difficult. So no, your bullet point is still there. It's actually, I can pull it on the copy of the bylaws. So, and I'm gonna try and figure out how to like, I'm gonna talk to the webmaster and see if we can link things again, because that made life a lot easier. Here we go. So see, it's still in the bylaws. I just shifted it. So before it was 1, 2, 3, and that didn't make any sense. And so now it's 1A, B. So it just is, because if it was to the left, it didn't make sense to have the cultural commissioner shall, and then nothing to follow.
Oh, so now I have like my own section and I'm not just under president.
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah, of course. It was very frustrating to have to like go in and find everything whenever we had to edit it anyways. So this was a passion project. Same goes for CEC. It was we moved the campus events commission shall be headed by this, and then we moved those under instead of to the left because it didn't make sense for them to be the left because it looks like it was not included under. And yes, it is ADA compliant now, which is something that I thought would be really important, considering that everybody should be able to read the bylaws.
Nice.
And so again, not voting on this this week. I hope that you take the time to like look through it. I can make sure that this one is sent out, this updated copy, and I literally just edited because I had to fix that one thing. You don't have to look super in depth, but it's good to, double check. And then also there are a few committees that you might want to like look into and see if you're needing stuff, but beyond that, that's kind of it.
Daniela?
Yes, this is second. First off, everything in the chat. Thank you, Alexa, so much for taking the time to do this and then to also come and explain it to folks and field the questions that people had. I also just wanted to note and emphasize that I really recommend that even though we just, Alexa just explained the changes, please look at the sections that specifically pertain to you. And if you have the capacity, look at the entire bylaws. Do I know that might be a really big ask? I tried to go in and annotate in the PDF that I slacked to you all where the changes were made corresponding to that bylaw change document to help make it a little bit easier to locate. So even if it's just skimming through those check sections and making sure that in reformatting, there wasn't any like meaning lost or altered, it would be really helpful just to make sure that when we do vote this in next week, that it's reflective of what we want it to reflect.
Yeah. Yeah, I just want to thank you so much, Alexa. This looks like amazing. I know this is probably a lot of work to do, like, and it's something that's been wanted for years, as Jonathan said. So thank you so much. We really appreciate you. Can everybody here give her? So everything looks to be just structural. Still take everyone's in the chat. She would love to. Everything looks to be structural, but let's just make sure that, everyone take a look at their part specifically, and we'll be voting on it next week because all bylaw changes have to, be presented at least for 7 days. So yeah, thank you. Milan, you are ready for IVP partnership fund allocations?
Sorry, I put the allocations in the chat, but we allocated $3,848 to 9 non-USAC entities.
Awesome. All right, is there any question in regards to how much the IVP partnership fund allocation allocated this week? All right, if not, can we get a motion?
I move to approve the IVP Partnership Fund allocations.
Can we get a second?
I second.
Sarah motions, Daniela seconds. All in favor, please raise your hand. All right, and by a vote of 10 to 0, the motion passes and the IVP partnership fund allocations for this week are approved. Okay, now we're getting to officer reports. So for this week, my office is pretty much, just worked on closing a lot of loose ends in regards to the office, just kind of wrapping up some things, creating like a, turnover binder and things of that nature. We also kind of finalized our meetings with the Chancellor and Vice Chancellor Gordon. I'm glad that, we had this talk today in regards to the parking fee increase, because that's going to be a big point of concern. And yeah, we reached out to a lot of the other departments. We've been trying to make sure that there's a student in each department in regards to like, different the educational department. So we're trying to make sure there's a student in everyone. So we've just been reaching out to the professors and just kind of solidifying and just consolidating that there's student representation there. And yeah, that's pretty much it. We'll go with internal vice president. Milan. All right, we'll come back to Milan. We'll go to the external vice president.
Yeah, so for this week, sorry, I'm putting up my notes. As I mentioned earlier, we allocated our last bag funds for this year's EVP office. This weekend, some folks traveled to Santa Cruz for the UCSA board meeting that took place. There's also the student regent interviews that also happened on Saturday in Santa Cruz. This upcoming weekend / next week, we are going to DC for the UCSA and UCLA lobbying advocacy trip, and we are finalizing the details and prepping for that, finalizing the folks and the members and the representatives we're meeting with. etc. We have a UC Regent training happening May 15th through 16th. And then following that, the 16th and 17th, the UC Regents meeting will be taking place on campus. So there will be a lot of other UC campuses on campus next week. And we will be sending out more information regarding folks that want to give public comment and where you can go attend the meeting. I believe the training is in that room that you guys are in right now, but I'll send more information out later. We are having a panel of elected officials on the 21st of May, which is Sunday, 5 through 7. So we're just prepping for that. Our last all staff meeting was yesterday. And so we got a training on substance abuse by a campus or an organization on campus. And yeah, now we are just wrapping up doing transition documents from all the directors and staff members. That's it.
Awesome, thank you.
Hi, Carl, sorry. Wait, should I go back to my officer report? My laptop just died, so I'm on my phone right now. But super sorry about that. Can I give my officer report? Am I good?
Go ahead, Mom.
Okay, sounds good. Sorry, everyone. My laptop died. But for my office, we basically just finished allocating the second round of the IBP Partnership Fund, which we presented to you here today. For the Housing Relief Fund, it just closed, I believe, on May 7th. So thank you to everyone who applied. We might have to extend it because we still have a little bit of the fund left, and we would really like to give it all to the students, but we have been working on putting posters up around Westwood and encouraging more people to apply before the deadline had closed. And then lastly, we're working on our spring showcase. I think we have our musicians, but we're just working on the AV equipment. And then lastly, I will be turning in my transition documents soon. I'm so sorry to Student Government Services. I was just getting all of my directors to turn in their transition documents so I can put that all together for you all. Okay, and that's all. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much, Mona. We'll be going to into Gen Rep 3. Eliana? Wait, is Eliana still here? Maybe her phone died or computer died. All right, we'll come back to Eliana's report. Campus Events Commissioner? Gio here? Gio's not here? Okay, community.
Sorry about that. I intended to have a verbal report today as well, if that's okay.
Oh yeah, that's fine. Let's go back to Eliana real quick and then we'll get to you.
Hi, super sorry about that. So yeah, I've been working on processing the surplus stuff, got a bunch of that. Looks like this, got a bunch of those jacks moving. So thank you to Afro Things Connection and Simone Anderson for their help with that. Me and Isaac from my staff are working on a presentation to Academic Senate about the need to make incomplete notations be only temporary on people's transcripts and be removed once you get your grade, once you finish your coursework, and also on equity for those in the reduced fee program. Tyra, Cobbs, and Rabbi Toba from Hilo and I had a great meeting working on some stuff about Jewish disability rights and also Black Jewish partnership. So that was very exciting. Shout out to both of them. They're awesome. Then processing some more MICA grants. Again, super sorry about not having those transition docs in. They are in the works. I'll send them in soon. Love y'all.
Thank you, Eliana. Academic Affairs Commissioner.
Yeah, thank you. Sorry about the interruption earlier. But I wanted to give a few updates today regarding funding and some other things that we're working on. A bulk of our updates are still hyperlinked, so that's still there. But in regards to funding, ASRF and TGMF are essentially fully allocated. I am going to give a funding allocation next week just for consent approval, but that's already been determined, like who it's going to go to. I just forgot to make a note of that today during council earlier on. And as far as another thing pertaining to finances, so I just wanted to go on the record really briefly to respond / correct something that I noticed in a Daily Bruin article that was published summarizing things that were mentioned in the debates that occurred last week. AAC's referendum funds came to the topic. And so I believe that in there may have been some quotes about how our funds were allocated this year. Folks were mentioning, or I think it was quoted in the article, that we had allocated and run out of funds midway through the quarter, when that has not been the case. So I just wanted to make sure to briefly correct that. So it's representative of a correct characterization of the work that my office and I have been leading in regards to managing these funds. For fall quarter, it was allocated all the way up until week 9. And in the winter quarter, it was allocated all the way through week 10. This quarter, we did allocate earlier on because we wanted to be mindful to not overburden any transitioning officers, whoever my successor is, considering that they're going to be learning this role and in training from week 7 and on. So we just wanted to make sure that we tried to offer that support and remove this task off of their shoulders. So that is why our funds in the spring have been cut a little bit earlier on. But some of the other things that we've been working on has been working a lot with ASUCLA on inclusive access. So those conversations have been ongoing. We've been collaborating on a survey to get students' input on their experiences with inclusive access, whether they've had direct access to the service or whether they just have heard about it, but we just want to gather their perceptions on textbook accessibility overall. So we're going to publish something on social media once we got confirmation on their end that the survey is good to go, which we will solicit your support from all USAC offices. So when it's ready to go, when you all see it, would really appreciate if you all could help us share. And then we're also in direct response to what Divine shared about the UC Regents meeting happening May 16th and May 17th, trying to get volunteers to give public comment in regards to inclusive access. As you all have seen, we've been bringing a lot of presentations through on the topic to council meetings. So we just want to continue that work. And with that being said, I'm also going to put a link to a resource about public comment right now in the chat. And then I will also be pasting it in the Slack. But let me know if you all have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Gio is not here, so we'll go to Community Service Commissioner, Juan.
Hi, everyone. I'm sorry for being remote today. I really wish I could be in person, but I'm not feeling well today. So not too many updates for CSC. I want to push this and ask for the support from all officers to push the Robert S. Michaels Award. The application closes soon, so please push that scholarship out. Visit our Instagram for more information and details to access the application. At UCLA CSC is our Instagram handle. The next thing that I would like to announce is that on June 2nd, Friday, June 2nd, which is week 9, I believe, we're going to have a community service summit. And it's going to be about celebrating and learning about the different community service work that different student orgs are doing here on campus. And it's going to be a very innovative, collaborative space that it's going to help educate a lot of service leaders about this work that is being done at UCLA, but also help drive conversations and workshops to improve the service delivery of these student orgs. So we're going to be launching the RSVP form, the Eventbrite for students to register soon. And it's going to, tentatively, we're looking at the Hill. So in the dorm area, this is where the summit is going to take place. It's going to be on a Friday. So if needed, students can request a letter to attend, and like a letter of excuse. So just putting it out there, that we're going to be launching our campaign for that service summit. And I encourage all of you to either attend and send representatives, or also just push it out in general. So that's all that I would like to update for the Community Service Commission.
Awesome, thank you. Cultural Affairs Commissioner, I seen that you wanted to do a voice report, correct?
Thank you. Yeah. Hi everyone. So wrapping up our end of year events, but we still have a lot going. So next week we have World Fest, which, you know, usually if you know about World Fest, it happens like during the first 3 weeks of spring quarter, but because of some issues with like ASUCLA reservations, like we had to push it back a couple weeks, but it'll be next week, and it'll be a Kirkhoff kind of takeover, like World Fest week. So please stop by the art gallery from the 15th to the 17th, and then on the 18th will be like our send off and our goodbye to World Fest week for our and it'll be a Teeny Desk concert, but that's all I'll say. And please follow World Fest on Instagram to know about like our those events. But the lineup will be posted tomorrow. The Instagram @ is CAC_World Fest. So or you could just see Cultural Affairs on Instagram as well. That'll be happening. So we're very excited. And if you're there, you might get a chance to get some CAC merch, because we just got that in from Guerrilla Marketing. So please come. I'm very excited to see World Fest happen. Okay. Next we have on the 18th as well. We have a concert / like market called For the Girls. And it's a belated celebration of Women's History Month, but also celebrating queerness in that space. And so please stop by. It'll be on Westcom Terrace, and it'll be really, really beautiful with all femme identifying vendors and performers. Next we have what's it called? Jazz Reggae Festival. Jazz Reggae Festival is happening on Memorial Day, the 29th, Monday. So tickets will be released by the end of this week. And if you see them released, get them, because they will sell out. Last year they sold out in 1 day, and I expect the timeline to shorten. I feel like this year we're gonna sell out really quickly. And our lineup will be released by the end of this week as well. So all our artists will
Alicia, you're breaking up. We can't hear you.
released by the end of this week. All the performers have so we have can you hear me now?
A little bit, but after Jazz Reggae Festival tickets sold out, that was the last thing we heard.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm so sorry. I think my laptop is not functioning too well right now. Yeah, okay. So get your tickets. They'll be released by the end of this week. Our performers will be released by the end of this week. What's next? We also are preparing our transition documents to have those submitted by the end of this week. I'm really, really sorry, Jonathan, that I have not submitted them yet, but I'll have them for sure by the end of this week. And also our director's application for, executive positions will be released on Sunday, I believe. And then the following week will be like interviews after the application closes. And then June 2nd, we have our end of year event, which we will have our zine launch to commemorate and celebrate everything we've done this year. with student performers and vendors and an arts section with also a gallery. So this will also be at Westcom Terrace, which is a really nice place to do it. So that's June 2nd. And later this month, we with the newly elected commissioners, we're gonna set up a meeting with Lori and start, I guess, planning for Bruin Bash. And that is all for my office. Oh, and one more thing. I know earlier this quarter, we went to the ASUCLA Board of Directors meeting. With the upcoming UC Regents meeting, they're going to decide on like supporting. Can you hear me? Oh, supporting O for All. So please be there to public comment to support O for All alongside myself. Yeah, that's all. Thank you.
Next up, we have Facilities Commissioner.
Okay, I'll get out again. Okay, guys, I'm not gonna lie, I kind of feel bad. I think hella of my shit is gonna like carry over, like even after people get elected. So, God, hopefully like it'll be fine. For the Disability Cultural Center, they have a walk audit like mid-May. And we already emailed out to Disability Studies to see if we could get like some sort of like staff advisor that could carry on the knowledge that like y'all don't need to like. I mean, yes, we want to like loop you into, yeah, Caitlin Sloan. I don't know if y'all know her, but yeah, she's really cool that she's in UConn meetings like all the time. So I'll be good. And I know that we talked about like wanting a location or like there being a location available on the Hill, but we're trying to figure out, does Disability Studies have a location somewhere so we can keep it to campus? But I don't know. And I need to like send out a DM to like everyone in the DSU group chat because I feel like, I don't know, it's just like sending to group me like as a group chat doesn't work anymore. So I'm gonna be doing that. That's one. Number two, Milan and I actually met with Bruin Access last week, or not Bruin Access, UCLA Marketing, like Jane Fernando, to see how we might be able to like increase outreach for Bruin Access expanding hours again during finals week for this quarter. So I think I'll work with a future commissioner on that because I don't know if I'll receive the information to do stuff by this week. And then our Bruin Bazaar committee in partnership with Good Clothes, Good People is having the student vendor fair on Monday. They worked with the fire marshal. Oh no, they're working with fire marshal tomorrow, which is a little last minute, to figure out like the table setting, but we have like 18 vendors and it's gonna be so cool. So I really recommend people to go out to Bruin Plaza next Monday afternoon. Yeah, and then we're still probably gonna be doing our like restroom auditing. We still don't have any data on like male restrooms because like most of the people that are on the team are like either female identifying or just like don't feel comfortable going into those restroom stalls. So hopefully like when the new commissioner is elected, we can continue working on that because it would be good to have the data in this year. And for my transition documents, I'll get those in this week too. I'm so sorry, but I won't like ghost the next commissioner, so I'm gonna try. Yeah, if anyone has clothing racks, like we have like a lot of people that like want to do clothing for the student vendor fair, but we only have like what? 5? We need 5? No, we GCGP has 4, we have 1. Oh, and then how many do we need? Okay, yeah, 2 to 3 more, that'd be great if anyone has one, please.
Awesome. Next up, we have Financial Sports Commissioner.
Hi, everyone. In FSC, what are we doing? We had a meeting and we are gonna be giving about $1,500 to contribute to the parking permit fund from our office budget to pay for summer parking permits for students. We're having an event on Thursday on Bruin Walk. If you guys promote it, that would be lovely. It's to give for people to get to know like what FSC does and who's in FSC, and then also to just give out merch and stuff like that we have. We are getting a banner for the New York Times thing, and that should be up soon, I think. And yes, we're working on our transition documents. We will also send those in. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it for FSC.
Awesome, thank you. Next up we have, is Tyra here? Tyra didn't come today. Okay. All right, and then international student representative is a written report, so we'll go straight into admin reps. Orlando isn't here, is he? Okay, we'll go Jessica.
Yeah, so just a couple things. Now's about the time of year where I remind everybody to exit packet things to have on the radar. So first, just as a reminder that everybody is essentially the signatory for your office funds until the end of the fiscal year. So even though many of you may be transitioning out of your office, you'll still need to be available to sign rec forms. So please make sure that you are still looped in. And we'll try to get you a list of your outstanding bills for your office within like the next week. So you can start processing those rec forms. Just to make sure that you're not leaving anything left open at the end of the year. So an email from our team with the student list. And, you know, if there's any specific things that you all would like us to create for council as a whole, like those are good to put on our radar so we can start working on them. Mostly we have some ideas of some template docs that we'll be providing the incoming group. So keep an eye out for, you know, updates from us on that. We're probably gonna do this year. We're gonna create email accounts for all elected folks. So it'll be like President-elect, IVP-elect, EVP-elect. This way, the newly elected officers can kind of get instant access if it's transitioning to a different person. If you're staying within your office, then it's kind of a moot point, but for anybody newly elected, they'll get a new email account so they can be functional with an email, but we can also have you all still maintain access to your email to get things like requisition forms turned in, important docs, important info that you need to get. So we're gonna try that this year and see how that works for folks in terms of being able to kind of transition more smoothly with the contact info. And we'll have a formal date that we'll let you all know in advance of like the formal handoff of all of the account info, so that you have it on your radar. And the other thing that I wanted to briefly touch on too, just with installation coming up next weekend. Please RSVP to that. If you can't come, that's fine. If you can just see if any of your fellow council members can kind of proxy for you, because it really is kind of more ceremonial, like, you know, if nobody's there to talk about your office or talk about the incoming person, you know, it sucks to be that one person who doesn't have somebody to talk about them. So, you know, you can kind of plan that in advance to ask somebody to say a few words on behalf of your office. That would be ideal. And if you can't find anybody, you know, we'll work it out and we'll make something happen. But I hope you all can make it, especially since we didn't do one last year. It's a really great event. I honestly haven't had this in person since before COVID, so it's a long time overdue. And it'll just be a really nice way to celebrate all your accomplishments as the council this year and pass off, you know, the torch to the incoming group. So if there's any other questions, please let us know. We're here to help support you as you're preparing to. And just know that we're all still here available if any of you still need things beyond your time on council. Feel free to reach out whenever you need.
Thank you. Is Steven here? Steven sneaks up. on us. He's not here, okay. Lori?
Nice to be back. I missed you guys for 2 weeks. I do not recommend getting a bacterial flu that is only for children. And being allergic to penicillin at the same time. So, just here still supporting you, Jessica. I'm sorry, I did not want transition documents. I feel like I needed to talk about transition documents because it's the theme. No, I'm not transitioning out of the same state. Just excited for installation and for election results on Friday. I'm probably gonna be there just to see it happen in person. So that's all I got.
Thank you. Jonathan?
Okay, hey, hi, hello. Hope everyone is doing well. Thank you to those who recognize that you have yet to turn in your transition documents. This is something that we started like when I started this job, so I'm glad to see them come in. And thank you to Daniela, Ian, and Naomi who have turned their transition docs in. Really exciting in the office this morning when we saw that. So thank you for that. Please get those in. Yeah, if you want a quorum too, we're gonna hold it hostage until you give us one. So, what else? Jessica and I went to the UC Risk Summit yesterday. And we got to meet with the student government advisors from most of all the other UC campuses to kind of hear what they're doing, how their elections have been going, and to kind of share like problems, concerns, all that kind of stuff, and see how things are going. And I thought that was really fruitful. I enjoyed that a lot. And I think that's about it for me. And if you need me, you know how to reach me, give me a call, stop by, shoot me an email. Really, I know this transition period is difficult, especially if you're like graduating and you've got like a bunch of other things on your plate, as I know you all do. So please let us know how we can support. Or if you just want to come in my office and tell me that you're having a bad day, feel free to do that as well. So that's it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. All right, now we'll get into old business. We don't, wait. Yeah, we're going to into old business. We don't have any new business. Oh, well, actually, yes, we do. But we'll get into old business. So we're looking at the resolution to mandate masking in the booster, introduce universal hybrid access, and reinstate the COVID-19 task force.
Okay, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, what's your statement on?
Oh yes, I kept that on, but I don't know if we have enough like sponsors, but I just kept it on just in case. There's anyone who else would like to sponsor, but I don't think we have enough sponsors for this resolution.
Oh yeah, it's supposed to be 3, correct? How many we got so far? 2? All right, does anybody else want to sponsor this?
Oh, can I talk?
You said what now, Alicia? Yes.
Oh, okay, sorry. I just wanted to make sure I could speak. If no one decides to sponsor it, then we can just take this off the agenda. Yeah.
Yes, Naomi.
Yeah, I also just wanted to say with this resolution, and just to be on record, like I saw that this resolution, well, the previous copy of the resolution was posted on Reddit, and to just see the amount of people that added like Trump photos and stuff of that nature is honestly so uncalled for. No matter what you believe regarding COVID, regarding anything going on in the world, it was so beyond me. I just wanted to say that. But yeah, that's all.
All right. We're gonna go once, go twice. Does anybody want to be added as a sponsor to this resolution? Okay, we'll be removing that. Yeah, we'll be taking that off. We won't be voting on that. whoever the sponsors for this bill, maybe reach out to other council members and before it comes to council to kind of already have that support. Okay, now we'll be getting to a bylaw change, Article 4, Section A. Daniela.
Yeah, I think it's probably presented to you all during week 4. There haven't been any changes to the bylaw since. So I think it's ready to be voted on if you'd like to.
Okay, does anyone have any questions, comments, or concerns regarding this bylaw change? I remember we did go over this already.
I have a question. Were you all gonna consider like a different consequence, I guess you could say, to the withholding of stipend? Because I know that was a issue before. This is the transition doc bylaw, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I offered it in the Slack channel. There weren't any folks who had any ideas. I didn't have an idea too. I think it's something that is probably really difficult for all of us to wrestle with. So what I would just suggest is we make these suggestions as they are now, and then for whoever comes to the CRC next year, that's just something that they look at amending. And if there's any way that I can support and sit in on those conversations as you all transition between terms, I'm more than happy to do that too.
All right, can we get a motion for this?
I move to approve the USAC transition process bylaw change.
Can we get a second?
I second.
Sarah motions, Keon seconds. All in favor, please raise your hand. Okay, and it's 8. All right, everyone, please lower your hands. Everyone, all members abstaining, please raise your hand. All members against, please raise your hand. All right, we only had 8 votes. But by 2 people didn't vote. Well, I mean, we have quorum, but 2 people didn't vote. So by a vote of 8 to 0, the motion passes, and the bylaw change is approved. All right, next up we have new business. We have a financial bylaw change. Eliana.
Hi, so let me pull this up. I think the main thing, because does the Constitutional Review Committee have to vote on it before the meeting?
Yeah.
So I just want to raise a few questions Daniela had about this, and then we can actually bring it up in the next meeting, I think. So the first is, do we have the authority to change the financial policies? Because that's what this bylaw would be changing.
Well, what is the bylaw? I can't see it. Does anyone have
Let
access to
me
it?
share my screen. Okay, share my screen. And here's the bylaw where it's gonna be changing these. And let's go, here's the actual change.
Ooh.
I have to look into the work study piece of it, because what I don't know is if there's additional ramifications of making that change that would impact the student's financial aid and work study.
So look into that. If we have to take out the work study piece, we can do that. Okay, so the other question is just, yeah, just to see if there are any reasons for the policy, we'd like to hear what they are. So we could get an answer on that, and then Constitutional Review Committee will vote on this, and then we'll actually vote on this bylaw change next week.
Yeah, Phoebe.
understand. Thanks for bringing this up, Eliana. I have like a couple of folks in my office that like work for like TGIF side or like Riverside and IGC, so it'd be great to give a more than that stipend.
Thanks, Phoebe. Appreciate your support. You know, I think it's really important. We have some really hardworking people and don't want them to be underpaid.
Awesome. Okay. Well, yeah, we'll have Jessica look into that, the administrative aspect of it, and then, you know, get it in front of CRC. And then hopefully we can take a look at it next week. Does anyone have any questions or any more concerns regarding that, the financial policy change? All right, if not, I adjourn this meeting at 8:39, well, 8:40 PM. Thank you so much for coming, everyone. Good luck on midterms and all that. We're out of here. Yeah, we're out of here before 10 o'clock. Nice. I thought.
Yeah.